this is really an interesting area, Corinne, and it seems to me that this particular phase, this fourth revolution, gets us into the weeds of how people actually do individual work.
Yeah.
If we're going to digitize how people work, I mean, in the old days, 5 years ago,
5 years ago.
I call them the before times.
Yeah, you would have a job now, and you'd have a process manual maybe, and it would sort of say you do this, this, and this. But it didn't get into the nitty-gritty detail of exactly how you did these processes.
Yeah.
Today, digital workflows are available widely. I don't think there's implemented that much, frankly, but they're coming for sure.
Yeah.
And once you have a digital workflow and you're integrated across a number of other participants, whether they're with you or wherever they are around the world, you're going to see a lot more. A manager is going to see a lot more. The organization is going to know a lot more about every individual employee, how they work, how the teams work, what's working, what isn't working, etc. It goes on and on and on.
Totally.
That's a fundamentally different position to be in versus any of the previous revolutions.
Absolutely.
How should employees deal with that, and how should managers deal with that issue as it comes up?
It's a good question. I think so. There's a couple of things. I think the immediate response from most employees is to feel protectionist and to be fearful of that kind of transparency. Partly because there's companies really struggle to scope jobs very well. And so, there's always a fear of, well, if I'm not creating enough legitimacy for myself in the work that I do, how do I still demonstrate my value if I have only a small scope of work? So there's a lot of HR and organizational issues around that of how do we really articulate who is doing what, why they're doing it, where it fits in the greater scope of the organization and the organizational goals. So that way, ultimately, you are right. This will be a big win and something that employees should feel excited about because they get to know exactly what's expected of them. And I'd actually seen one of the comments prior on LinkedIn, someone talking about the difference between full-time employees and solopreneurship. Yeah. I do think that that kind of transparency and structure can create a lot of opportunity because then we're focusing on outputs. We're focusing on this is the job that you are being asked to do, rather than we're going to hire you for this. This is the job description, but you're going to have other special projects and all these things that are, slightly, they're under the water line essentially. So this is the long way of getting around to, I think employees should welcome it, but they should welcome it in the way that it's a tool for them to be really, really specific about the work that they do. There's through the past couple of years, there have been a lot of new terms thrown around, like the passion tax or things that basically, if someone is so invested in the kind of work that they're doing or the brand that they're working for, there can be this level of taking advantage, exploiting, which is a very common theme through industrial revolutions, is the exploitation of resources. There can be that invisible tax of, we know you're so into this, and so here we're going to give you more without necessarily the commensurate pay that goes with it. Right. So I do think that there's the transparency has benefit going both ways. Organizations will get to see what tasks are happening on the individual and team level, where and how people do it most effectively, and how they can support it best, or where they might need to intercede, and whether it's a PIP or things like that, they can come in and help individuals or teams. And then on the individual side, they can say, okay, this scope of work is commensurate to this type of pay that I'm receiving. Any additions or any changes in those things, I get to then have information that I can go to the HR team or the team that's hired me and discuss compensation. So I think the long run is a reality that looks like that is more transactional. But I do think that we have a lot of digital transformation and also employee mistrust of organizations and vice versa that we'll need to sort through first.
Right. And that could get worse when we have another new factor for the first time. We have AI. Kind of like Darth Vader is out there.
Yeah.
Okay, has all this data. It's going to be looking at all this data. It's going to say, hey, we're doing this, this, and this. But
Yeah.
you know what? If we did this, this, and this, we would make more money, or we could use less people, or we could, that's out there, and that's really not controllable. And that hasn't really happened yet. It's only going to be a couple of years at least. Before
we're still in the very early stages of that.
How do we do
it? Would it be overly dramatic to expect that the level of change in the fundamental work to be done when you introduce AI and other robotic automation opportunities into the mix is like perhaps equivalently profound to the pre-industrial revolution, which was the agricultural revolution, where we shifted from
foraging to
foraging, hunting, gathering to
that's actually a really
agriculture, and there everything changing was city states emerged, and we could store energy, and we didn't have to go chase the food. We grow the food, and so work changed.
Yeah,
like the skills needed were radically different than what was vital to survive as foragers.
Thank you for that comparison. I think that is probably the most appropriate comparison to the fourth industrial revolution, because it's not, it's not iteration. It is just full stop. We are doing something different.